So, Mark, we've just discussed, I suppose, in our discussions there around what these things are that can elevate your events to make them more virtual events than your standard webinars. Just to
Mm.
recap on that, we're talking about engaging the audience. We're talking about creating memorable experiences you was referencing. And I suppose a simple way that you identified as well there is about these sections, these different
Mm.
sections that don't necessarily have to be about you and your company. They're just kind of there to make people feel good. Is there anything else you want to add to that before we kind of move on? Is there any more
Yeah,
essential components in the mix?
yeah. Right, okay, so really essential things that have worked for us so other people can use as well. So there's two steps. There's stuff to do before things happen, and there's things after. So there's one that's all about you have to create the build up, yeah? So long gone is just a generic email that we send out to people expecting them to turn up, because we won't. And I realize that you've got to keep on at this, yeah? I think LinkedIn events is really good, because LinkedIn events, we can use that. LinkedIn events is like puffing our chest out, because we can set up our events and people say they're going to attend, just click, and you use that as social proof. Because you can say, look, there's 50, there's 80 people that are going to be coming, so you should come too. But you have to create the build up. You have to, if you're putting something on, you have to keep with it. And then you have to pay attention to the people who are coming. For instance, everyone that books to come to you at the media online, what I'll do is I'll thank them in an email, and I'll include the calendar invite. This is really simple tip that not everybody does. If someone's booked, send them the email thanking them, but make sure you put in a calendar invite, because then just to make sure that they've got the prompt that's coming up 48 hours or so. It's just a simple way to acknowledge that you appreciate someone else's time that they're going to be spending with you. Again, we're finding these touch points to continually reach out. And then when it happens, you're talking about here about these ways of breaking things up and everything else. So it's the simple things as well when things happen, such as looking into the camera lens, and even look how we gesticulate. I'm full of that. I used to be that, arms out everywhere, but now I've learned how to bring it more into the space that's in front of us.
I think Liam's helped as well with his slimline camera. He's chopped your arms off, Mark. So we do apologise.
Oh no, I'm bringing it proper.
Maybe we can be Mark's arms. If you used to.
That would be funny, wouldn't it? If you do that, some kind of if we continued on going
the other way.
It's this way.
So we have to. Those people that come to attend, for instance, there is a small fee for people to come to You Are the Media. Yeah, so there is this. It costs a tenner. But you want people that come to your events to feel like VIPs. And if someone's paid, I will send to them the video to watch back. I don't make any of it public. I like this ephemeral nature that you have to be there. I might share a little clip. But it's how we can make the people that come attend the things that we put on feel special. And by sending a video, because when we have You, the Media Online, there's a lot of chat that's happening, and there's lots of stuff that's going on as well. But maybe it's something to give someone. It allows someone to give their full attention to something they might have missed. For instance, I always watch back, so I'll be definitely watching back. I'll be counting every swear. Someone did a tally chart yesterday as well about how many. It's like little pencil lines every time Mark Ritson swore.
I do that.
And it was well over 30. Let's put it that way. But the main thing is that how we just raise our energy levels. It's just the way that my human nature is just the way that I am. But one of the most challenging things to accomplish is, I know it's really difficult, is that how we start to raise these energy levels, because it's a way that transmits from where you're sitting to someone else. There you go, the hand thing now, from where you're sitting into someone else's room.
It's so true. And I think that bit that you said about making people feel good as well, like you've got to have that connection. And by doing that, you kind of feel like you're there with them, and the way shows get opened up and, that energy sort of comes across. And
yeah, what you said there, I think it's 100% true. And one of the things we often say, and this is goes back to when we did physical events, does anybody remember them days? Like, we used to go there and always have this mindset that people might not remember what you said. They might not really care how you said it, but they'll definitely remember how you made them feel. And it's an old quote, I know that, but it's just so true. And that is a fundamental building block for any interaction you have with people, be that digitally, virtually, be that face-to-face. you might not remember someone's name, but you always like, oh yeah, I kind of like that guy. I got on with that person. I remember how they made me feel, and I always think, that.
But this is an interesting
about
point.
any
This
event.
this thing here, Gareth, of personality and how there is no hiding place. And I guess it takes time. For instance, I've only got used to this year when we had our first events. You know, we've had the Zoom bombing, sending out wrong links to people,
Yeah.
and this thing about you talk there about how you make people feel is now becoming such a very important aspect of how we build our businesses and how we create personality. And here's another thing, and this is John Espirian, name dropping somebody else. John Espirian talks about in his book,
I'm a fan.
Content DNA, is that this thing of congruence and how we present ourselves in one place has to be exactly the same in another. So imagine if we met in a physical environment and you'd be like, Mark was a bit of a bastard. That kind of way that just went a bit, nobody gave him a second of his time, which is why you talk about how you make people feel. This is such an opportunity now to present our ways in a way that can be upbeat, that can have a message. It can still be serious, but has a belief system in place. And if you can replicate that, and you can put that on LinkedIn, you can put that in every social place or every place where there is a commentary, then that comes into this place of personal branding that can really help us all.
It's so true. It's so true. And I think people just need to get started. That's the key message that we're going out there. So we've covered quite a lot there, Mark, to be fair. We've talked about the differences between a webinar. I keep calling it that.
No.
Sorry to anybody who's a fan of webinars. We're just using that as our kind of terminology, a traditional kind of presentation, let's call it that, and a virtual event. We've talked about the building blocks, and we've also spoken about some essential components that people should include to help grow them and the brand. And the one thing that I do want to come back to is it's all good. And, you know, I think we were talking about this yesterday on You Are the Media around what's the point? Like, you know, if it's not going to help us, like what are the benefits, in your opinion, of making this transition or even making virtual events in the first place? Is it going to help businesses?
Right. So again, listen, I'm going to have to say this along with Mark Ritson, is that it's a way of commercializing. Yeah. So who is to say that what starts as a Fresh Friday becomes a membership community or something else in 2021, 22? So the benefits to our business is that how this one, you can monetize directly from it, or the other side is how you can indirectly make money from it. For instance, I know we keep on referring back to Mark Ritson yesterday, but that's because we were there. And so he was, throwing the medium of podcasting down the pan.
It's like we're doing a webinar right now.
Oh no! But I get it because many people listen. I don't want to be in a world where all I have an expensive hobby. Yeah, and I realized a mistake a few years ago was that you set up something. Listen, it may be something like an estate agent that ends up doing a podcast on eating well or something such as that. Whatever we use, it still has to relate back to how we pay the mortgage. And things such as what we're trying to achieve here is, one, we build audience, have people come into our side, but we still have to think about means of how we sell. And that's why we can use video. For instance, as I said, people pay to come to You Are the Media, but that is also a means of finding the ways that connect the dots of other things. Yeah. Which is why I mentioned at the beginning is You Are the Media is emphasizes how people build space and build connection and build audience. But when you build audience and people come to your side, when you're selling something, it feels easier because you're not trying to coerce people. You're not trying to coax them, because you are continually demonstrating the value in what you do and what you believe in. And that should help and assist other people.